Recording in progress.
Okay, it's 5:35, 5:33, March 6th. I call the Groton Economic Development Commission to order. Roll call, Robert Boris, Commissioner.
Bella Cruz, board member.
George Methanol Commissioner.
Bill Key.
Okay, excellent. Public communications, anybody have anything they want to talk about that they spoke to the community or events?
Just update on the Community Speaks Out. We did buy the building and our opening, and it's incredible. Like having roots in the ground is something that we weren't expecting this quick, but
Yeah.
And anyone's gonna be invited April. Set up May 31st. We're actually gonna host a 5K fundraiser that's gonna basically walk over the bridge.
Okay.
Back. It's gonna be called Bridge to Recovery. And I got a call from my father because he's 78 years old and his bucket list item is to walk over that bridge. For some reason, he's never done it. I have personally, but, so I think this is gonna be a really popular event because a lot of people haven't done it. It's not the biggest, widest sidewalk, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and
Cool.
that'll be a ribbon cutting and an opportunity to see what we're gonna be doing. So we're pretty excited.
Awesome. Anyone else, anything? No? All right, approval of minutes. Everyone have a chance to review minutes last meeting? Motion, amendments or a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay, old business.
Old business. We don't have any old business.
All right,
Just new.
that's good. It's a new year. Let's go on to new business, and it looks like we have a tax increment financing town policy presentation.
Yeah,
So,
perfect. Thank you so much. I'll pull this up real quick. And so basically, we mentioned in our last meeting that we'd be doing this presentation for you this month. Let me just share quick. And the reason we're doing this is because the EDC plays a key role as the advisory committee for tax increment financing policy and requests. We don't have one currently, but we wanted to just get you prepared, especially with some of our newer members, so that you can start getting yourself familiar with the materials.
tips.
There we go. All right, it's a very brief presentation where I think just maybe 7 or so slides, but basically we'll just jump into what tax increment financing is, or TIF. How does it work? An overview of our town policy and the EDC's role within that policy. And I'd like to also welcome our City of Groton EDC members. I can't see who's online, but I believe some are joining us. They also have an advisory role for their district. We wrote a joint plan for, and they wanted to join and learn a little bit as well. We've been working with their economic development manager, Sarah Patrick, on that. So we appreciate them tuning in. All right, so what is tax increment financing? It's a tool that's used to catalyze economic development, and it really allows for future property tax revenues from development within a district to be dedicated to support projects that help advance those economic goals. The town policy guides the process for several pieces: for the planning, the reviewing, the approving, and the implementing of the TIF districts. And the EDC plays a very important advisory role in approving any TIF districts or the development plans that happen within them and the project agreements that support them. So you guys are going to be specialists in this before you know it. Sorry, the scrolling feature is really wonky on this. So it's not the easiest thing to explain, but this graphic really helps depict how tax increment financing works. So let's say you have a parcel, claim to the parcel that puts off $10 in tax revenue. So if you see that base year triangle in the corner, you say in 2025, this parcel will get put off $10. Then we set that base year. He builds his project within the parameters that we've asked for, and it's now putting off $20 additional. So there's $30 that that parcel is putting off. Of course, it's very small numbers, just for an example, but he's able to capture that extra 20, and that's why it's called tax increment. So it's really using that those funds that are going to be generated because of the improvements to help go back into those improvements and support them, whether it's infrastructure, or public art or something along those lines. There's also a term that you set. So for us, it's a 30-year max term. So. All right, so for our policy, it was adopted in 2018. And again, it guides that planning, reviewing, approving, and implementation. And we have 2 established TIF districts right now. We have one in our downtown. It's the purple on that map, and then one in the city of Groton, which is that aqua color. The role of the EDC, you help play an important advisory role. So when staff gets a request for a project within that TIF district, you help advise and make recommendations on that, as well as any project agreements that come through. And then also because the city has a TIF district within their boundaries, we worked on that with them together. And so anything that's approved for the town also goes through the city process. So that's kind of a double process there. All right, so at a high level, the town's policy has certain goals that they're looking for to utilize this tool. Because it's a really effective tool, it's very strong. And these are the main goals. So growing and diversifying the town's tax base through private investment, growing, supporting economically diverse, long-term stable employment opportunities, improving the quality of life overall for Groton, enhancing the town's infrastructure, creating housing opportunities, establishing and supporting public space and cultural uses, improving transportation and recreation infrastructure, assisting established businesses in the town, and revitalizing areas or buildings in need of redevelopment or rehabilitation. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it. This is an incredibly simplified graphic of how it works, but essentially we as a town or the city would set up a TIF district master plan. So this basically touches on everything in the slide before. This is what we'd like to accomplish with this incentive in this plan. And those are the different areas you saw on the map too. So we have 2 of these master plans set up for those 2 districts. Then, so if Clayton says, okay, my parcel that I have, I want to do a project, he'd come to us with a project development plan. So you would help, advise what we've analyzed with that, how it's meeting the master plan goals. And if you say yes, then we move into an agreement with Clayton as a developer. And basically that identifies the terms of what the return will be, what the public benefits will be that they accomplish with this project. And you basically have involvement in each of those. The policy itself, we'll share with you. It'll be in that shared drive for you to access. But there's a lot of different requirements. We didn't go through all of them because there's a lot, but some key ones just to keep in mind as you're reading it and just kind of framing for you how this tool works. The general rule is it's called the but-for rule. Essentially, kind of if a project proposed and says this project would not happen or this additional public benefit would not happen, but for this incentives being provided to this project, it wouldn't take place. So that's kind of the baseline that you're always thinking of. And for example, it could be we really need to offset the infrastructure costs. This is, maybe it's something very unique like a professional team and they need parking that some other use really wouldn't use or need, but you're helping offset that to bring in a really unique asset that wouldn't happen without it. Also, per our policy, the project has to have at least $1 million in private investment. And I use this example just to help folks know it's not for the smaller projects, it's for the really big stuff that's going to make a really big difference. Additionally, the project owner has to contribute at least 10% of the equity. So that's another thing. They're coming to the table with a lot of their own investment and capital and not relying solely on the town for this incentives to pull the project off. And it also has to have a very reasonable build out time. So it doesn't necessarily have to be shovel ready that moment, but very close so that we're not, talking 10, 20 years because we want it to be impactful and impactful quickly. So that's just a very high level overview. We're going to give you access to the policy as well as the 2 different master plans that are already established, just so you can dive in. They're not short, so maybe give yourself a little time. I think one of them is maybe 66 pages. So as you dive in, you can get familiar with those so that you can also identify any questions you have for us as staff, but then also once we do get requests, you'll be familiarized. And once we do have requests, we'll bring them to you with a lot of background specific to that proposal. But we wanted to give you an overview so you can start getting familiar with all the documentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just the logistics. So the developer applies to you guys and then you refer it to us to start to think about it.
Yes, for that project development plan, essentially. So
Okay.
because the two districts that we have are already approved, the EDC did help advise on those, but those two they're done. So
Right.
within those districts now, we could receive a project development plan and correct, we would come to you with the analysis of how those meet.
What about outside those districts? Is there a pathway for anyone outside of a already approved district to have a conversation about it, or?
I think right now we're focusing on these ones because so much work has gone into why these are key areas. So
Right.
I think sometimes within policy, if you can identify how a parcel that's pretty close can help impact that area, there could be some
Right.
partnership there, but in general, we're looking for parcels within the master plan.
And I'm sorry if I missed it. Are there existing projects that have done this? Do we have a list of that we can kind of?
Yeah, not yet. These have been launched and we're doing some work as well to kind of analyze why they might not have been used yet or how we can help incentivize folks. So that's part of also this training because we're getting ready to hopefully start seeing some.
How do developers learn about it?
It's usually a pretty accessible tool. It's a statewide. We get our ability to do this from state statute.
So developers around the state.
Yeah, they're familiar with it, especially developers that have used it before. It's a nuanced tool, and so it's a pretty well-known tool. But we do plan on really promoting a little bit more as well. But yeah, it's a statewide opportunity. So I think folks are familiar with the statute in general.
How large is it?
Oh, I don't know the acres off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, in terms of like, just like, what are the capital size, like how big for each? site?
oh, sorry, do you mean for like each project? Oh, that's totally up to the developer and whatever parcel size that they have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so within the set district, you could own, I don't know, 20 acres or something like that, but it would just depend on your assemblage and what you propose.
So is it appropriate, like one of those areas is in the area that the town council has asked us to promote development. Is it appropriate for us to speak with owners in that area? Say, hey, do you realize you have possibility for a TIF if you do
Yeah,
something?
That's a great question. I think it's slightly more developer oriented just because of the level of
Mhm.
the project. So, but you could work with businesses as well. It would just come down to really those requirements if they're putting in.
But
Go ahead.
just in terms of the logistics, though, since we're adjudicating an application, when we do outreach, if there's
Yeah.
an owner of a parcel, is it appropriate for a commissioner to be like, hey, did you know your parcel falls within a TIF?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
and we
okay.
we're updating a lot of our website materials as well. So as we improve those, they are available online now, but we can even have materials for you that directly link. Actually, Clayton, is that in your draft for next month? I think one of the things we're giving you next month lists almost every resource we have.
Okay.
So yes, that's a great question.
Okay.
So if I can share, so it is a federal program, so it's not just a state of Connecticut. And two, yes, you can reach out to developers. We've tried to publicize it, whatever, not throughout the years. People have only certain amount of attention for a period of time. So that has to be limited. And we can go out and evangelize it to every property owner to see how they want to harness it and all that kind of stuff. It is, and bring in their own developers, as long as that match, that is a criteria. The role of the EDC before was sort of like a vetting entity on behalf of the, sort of a help kind of thing, not provide judgment or whatever, just to say, all right, this seems right, this seems, you need to have something done, please talk to the staff and get something more cogent and involved. So in that way, we keep the interest going instead of just handing them off to the staff and say, go and figure this out, which that's how we operated before.
Usually these are for, like, generally they're for off-site improvements, not necessarily for the property that's being developed. So don't tell the property owner that, you can get
Yeah.
a parking lot out of it or something. It's really for off-site. So if you have a big development, then you can use the TIF to put in new sidewalks or extend a sewer line or have events in a new venue or something. You can do anything like that, but it's typically off-site.
You can
Doesn't,
both, but it is a good point that you're not saying like, you need to still apply for TIF, like it is very massive, massive.
and it's, you're basically assigning future town tax revenue to a particular project or activity. So it's it's basically the same thing as the town spending tax money on this thing,
Mhm.
except that it's kind of prearranged because of this development.
It's a
Kind of like
way
regrouping
of
it.
subsidizing
Setting it aside.
the whole development and then gaining the taxes later.
Does the developer have any voice in terms of how the TIF funds are spent?
Yes, yeah, that's part of that project proposal essentially.
It's all negotiated up front.
Mhm.
I think the closest project we've had since I've been on one back when I was in the council was the extension of a sewer pipe that ends on 117. They needed to cross 184. So there was a big apartment building that was gonna be a large investment, but it was a $5 million project to get the utilities there. And if they got the utilities there, then they could branch in maybe another business open up. So it was like a parlay into, more business, but that's the closest I came. And I think the Marriott Hotel was a TIF project,
Oh, okay, I don't.
like where they got some kind, it may not have been exactly.
No, not that one.
They got some kind of
Tax break or something.
tax break, and
Yeah.
it may not have been TIF, might have been TIF.
TIF came in after,
Yeah.
after they were up and running.
Yeah.
I remember going for cocktails there before.
Could you just cover again, how does it work in the city? Do we have a role, official role with the EDC there? Is it their EDC and what does that look like?
It's pretty much the same mirror process. So if we were to do let's see, if we're doing something in the city's district, it's basically two processes. So they have to approve it as well as us. So it's the exact same
Got it.
process, but just two times the same,
Got it.
two different bodies. No, it would just be basically go through two different tracks, but the same proposal. And there's some nuances there. If the city is not interested, it doesn't mean we can't do it. We would just have our own agreement with that developer. So that's basically, it's just because there's two governing bodies, essentially, it goes through two
Right.
tracks.
So would it go their EDC, their mayor and town council, or their city council approve it and then to us?
I think it's parallel. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Sierra has a question as well.
Oh, great. I have.
I think we're getting an answer.
Okay.
So what do you?
Sierra, can you hear us? Or sorry, can you, are you unmuted? I hope. There we go. I think that should do it.
Hi, Sierra.
I think I'm unmuted. Hey everyone. Thank you for
Hey.
having me tonight. Just a few questions. I don't have answers in regard to the TIF, but I would say I do think that the joint TIF for the city and town, that the process does run in parallel, and I will definitely continue to encourage that there just be ongoing collaboration if there are projects within this area, just because this is a twofold process. Two governments, we have two EDCs and also two finance departments that we have to work with to make sure that this process goes through smoothly. I did have a question in regards to the base year. I was wondering if the TIF, the current ones that we have, if they already have funding within, if they already have some level of funding, because wouldn't their base year be when they were approved? So like for the cities, would it be when it was adopted in 2019 that was the base year? And so it started accruing.
Sorry, so the base year is on a project basis. So essentially, it would be if a developer came to you now and said, I'm proposing this, you make that agreement, you would set your base year. So whatever the assessed value is now is set, and then it's what accrues after. So it's a project by project basis.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And we were also looking to explore, because in our master plan, yes, it does focus on the developer, but we also explore other things like streetscape and gateway improvements, bicycle facilities, facade improvements. We even have business improvement districts and programs within eligible uses for the funds. So not 100% sure exactly how that starts to calculate. I guess we put in an application and that does the bid year, but for those smaller initiatives, over this time that we're doing this research, we would want to get some clarity of like what are other ways that we can use it outside of the developers as well.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part? So you're saying you have a lot of different goals, so how do you capture? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
No, for the TIF district in our master plan, there are a list of various types of projects that we can use the funding for that is outside of a developer. And I was just saying that was like streetscapes, business improvement districts, programming. So the city would be interested in also further exploring what those agreements and projects could look like under this tool.
Oh, okay, great. So, sorry, there's no question for me. That was more of a
Okay.
statement.
No problem.
Okay, great, thanks, Sarah.
Sounds great, Sierra. And we would absolutely welcome working with you and communicating with you to, a successful TIF applicant.
It can also be over more than one property too, typically. So if you have a depressed area that's, a retail area that's not doing very well, let's say, and then all of a sudden you got one, or like a Main Street area or whatever, and then you have one new big business coming in that is going to revitalize that whole area, something really popular, then you can actually capture that whole area. And then as those other properties increase in value, you can use that in your TIF, because, all the boats rise when the water goes up. So that's something you can do too.
Yeah, and I think it'll come down to those agreements as well, and where you get to capture, like you basically outline like where those funds come from ahead of time, so it's all determined and outlined for that, whatever it would be, a 30-year term, whatever you settle on. Great, there's no other questions. That's our presentation, and we'll make sure those documents I listed are available for you in the shared document as well, so you can check them out there. And you don't have any assignment, we're not like quizzing you. It's more just get familiar with it, and then we'll keep you up to date as have more opportunities. Great, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions on that? Okay, moving on to business outreach strategy, assignments, and engagement goals.
So last meeting, we got to talk about all the exciting work the EDC will be able to do in terms of business outreach. So just wanted to give you all a few updates. In the Google Drive that I shared some weeks back now, there is a worksheet essentially that has all the business assignments for each, or all the businesses for each member to go ahead and visit. I've tried to give you all some popular businesses, but it really focuses on the downtown area to start our outreach. There's 3 businesses per member. In front of you, you have Pivot Grant postcards. So those are definitely a resource that you can share for our small businesses. There's up to $5,000 award for infrastructure costs or technical support that the businesses might need, and $1,500 for aesthetic improvements that the businesses can apply for, and those can be staffed for a total of $6,500 max per business. And that's a very simple, straightforward application, pretty like easy process for businesses. So we encourage you to share that. I mentioned, I think last time it started coming up either as the meeting was started or just before. There is another outreach card that'll be more general that you can kind of pass out whenever you're out and about. That just lets folks know kind of, it has the purpose statement that we talked about last time, the purpose statement of the EDC and some of the resources and then how to contact us. There's two things we're waiting on to finalize those, which is our social media handle, because we have to go through the process with the town and the IT department to be able to create an Instagram, and we're in that process right now. So once we have that, I'll add the handle to the postcard, and then we also have to just get them printed and get those to you all. But then you'll have a couple different resources you can share when you're out promoting the EDC, introducing yourselves. I also shared a few questions that are just meant to like kind of frame the conversation. It's not a script. And I'll share a story like anecdotally for your reference. Lauren and I went to, regarding the pivot grant, one of our applicants was Christopher's Cafe. And we kind of went and popped in there just to provide them with some support. And all we asked, well, we talked about the pivot grant and the application, and then we just asked, tell us about your business. And it turned into a great 10-minute conversation. It's a second generation business. They are thinking about transition plans, and we just learned a whole lot. They have a whole nother room beyond the bar that they can host events at. They showed us their catering menus. So when we do like something like community conversations, we now have that in mind because we didn't know that they offered catering. So one simple question just led to a really healthy conversation. And that's kind of what, you know, what we're hoping that you all can do. So you'll see some of those questions. And I think one is just like, tell me about your business, or, you know, what got you started. And then one that is worth asking is, do you want to be featured on our social media? So we have these social media plans, and one of them is, one of the regular posts will be a business spotlight. So I'll go out, pop around to different businesses, shoot a 1-minute video that just, you know, promotes the business, and we can share those around. So as you're out and about, if you're able to kind of gain their interest on that, that would be helpful for me, because then you can just shoot me an email, say, hey, the folks at Rogers Cash and Carry said they'd love to be featured on Instagram, and I'll be able to write them and pop on over.
So have you followed up? I think they are all both awaiting for Lauren to respond.
Oh, yeah, she's been working with them for a while now on the application. Great. Yeah.
Chris, both Chris or George, Christopher and the gentleman at Rogers were saying they were waiting for our end to respond. And
Yeah, we reached back out to both, and the ball's in their court right now.
I don't think so, because
For Rogers Cash and Carry, they were, I believe they're waiting to do some more of the work because it's a reimbursement program.
Yeah.
So for some of the businesses that I've talked to, it's been a matter of, they have to.
all right, do me a favor,
Work around.
give them a call back and tell them the ball is on their court.
Okay.
So they're telling me opposite.
All right, I got you.
This is just in the last 72 hours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So there's a miscommunication there. Now, about this, where's this money coming from? That expires next year.
No, well, at the end of next year, so December
But when
31st.
we put it on the website, it said it expires on December 2024. So maybe you need to update the
We
website.
did update it when we came in, so we'll double check, but we just went to town council to reallocate all of our funds by this last year's deadline, so we believe all that language is correct, but we can double check.
So at least,
Just to be clear, it's for-profit businesses, right? You can't do like a historical society or. Okay.
Yeah, and our pivot grant website lists all the requirements. It's really straightforward in the documentation that you have to provide. So pretty much if you can provide that documentation, you're approved. It's very straightforward.
Okay.
And we just revamped that whole site, so.
What's the balance and what do they have? How much?
We have about 64,000 left. But that's not counting the 5 applicants we're working with right now, so that will get lower soon. But until those 5 are approved, that's what
When
we're.
that exhausts it, ARPA money will be gone.
December 31st of the end of the year.
Yeah, so just get.
2026.
2026, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still some more ARPA money at the state.
Beyond the 65,000?
For pivot, that's our,
For pivot,
and
that's it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Pivot, we gave that brand,
yeah.
but to go into the coffers of ARPA that the state
different.
divvies out to the municipalities, we can go and get, there's still some more money that they gotta get rid of before 2020, the state.
Is there a process of awardees speaking to them about sharing with us their experience or how they used it? Or, we'd love, obviously, that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
capturing it, but they could come and,
Definitely. And that's one of the things, as far as one of the business spotlights as well, we, when Clayton chats with folks, it's, have you utilized a partnership with the town in any way? And then we can also talk about those and help spread the word. So it's coming from businesses and not just us or you guys.
It's a good idea. I like it. The spotlight. Nice.
And just another note, pivot grant is first come, first serve. So as that dwindles, might be a little boost for the businesses to go ahead and submit their applications.
So you might want to try and reach out to see if you can shore up for another, 18 months of money, whether we can get some more money to Groton or the city of Groton from the state.
Our ARPA funding is pretty much done. We have received, let's see, we just went back to council with, we are at 8.5 million basically for the town at this point, and it's all allocated by the deadline, and it had to be allocated by the 31st last year. So
Yeah.
I don't think the town is necessarily pursuing more. Per that statute, it had, if you had any funds, they had to be allocated by the end of last year. So we've allocated the whole 8.5. So
And if we can get any more, Joe?
I'm not sure. I'm not up there anymore, but we can always ask. I'm asking for some other money for our sale project, so.
Because if we don't ask them, the other towns are gonna ask
Yeah.
anyway, and then pick up all the remnants.
We can reach out to us, to our reps
And to our senator and see if maybe if there's more buckets.
If you have 5 in process, then that could be half of your money gone, right?
So it's a race for all of you guys who wants to get the most, to get to the end of the bucket. Great.
anything else?
Just last couple things, little different. They're in the same vein of like the responsibilities of the EDC as an advisory board for TIF. There's a couple other situations where, well, there's more than a couple, but I've uploaded a couple of the role in referral processes for general town council referrals and economic assistance fund referrals. So that EDC has a role in each of those projects. And I shared those in very just simple, straightforward documents that are also in the drive for your reference. And I'll do the same for TIF. And as I continue finding more responsibilities charged to you on different policies, I will upload those as well.
Is there any more money left in the EDC fund?
I have to check on that with finance. I'm not sure.
Because we are supposed to get X percentage every year. Beginning of the year.
Yeah, when we were working on the policy goals, we found that, and I don't think you've necessarily utilized it in the past for anything in particular. So we can check and see if there's a balance, and if anything would probably go to support some of the events, like the goals that you have for the year of hosting events for folks. Have you used it for anything in the past that you know?
Really?
So, yeah.
It is very finely crafted. It's only for certain improvements. And if you're new coming in, you wanna do the zero lines or do some this and that. Statements and whatnot. Can get money for that.
Do you mean physical improvements to something? The EDC has funds for infrastructure, is that what you're saying? I'm not sure. I'll check on that.
It used to be about 600K.
Okay. We'll
I
check.
think we can put plaques to former chairs all over town.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So we used to have a so-called, lack of a better word, task force that vetted applications. And then we decided what would be amenable based on the work, so they don't just get, for example, Grand Spirit, we gave him X amount of dollars.
Oh, you're talking about EAF specifically.
The what?
The Economic Assistance Fund is what you're talking about specifically?
That now.
Okay, well, we have an Economic Assistance Fund, which does help infrastructure for businesses.
Okay.
It sounded like you said the EDC has their own line item.
No, that is part of EDC's role.
Yeah, so that's what Clayton's talking about. The policy for the Economic Assistance Fund is on there, and the EDC does help with those.
So how much
requests.
is left in there?
I have to check the balance on that one. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Because it's good to get that going as well, to see who we could support this year.
We just,
How many people know about it?
we did just review an application that didn't really fit that program, and we're working with the candidate just to see how other ways we can support them, but we do get requests from time to time. So again,
Oh, good.
part of the promotion program or efforts.
Is that on the website? Good.
All right, staff report?
Well, we touched on a whole bunch last month. So this time we just had two very brief updates, just keeping everyone up to date on our excess property disposition process. Groton Heights has moved from the Property Sale Review Committee recommendation to Town Council. So they're reviewing their shortlist and holding interviews of that shortlist on March 18th. Then our Pleasant Valley property is just a little bit behind in that they were staggered. So they're just going through the Property Sale Review Committee process and holding shortlist interviews actually on Monday. So after that, basically how it works is the committee will shortlist the candidates, the leading candidates, and then they'll make a recommendation to Town Council, and they'll do a very similar process, reviewing the materials, interviewing candidates, and then come to their preferred concept and developer. Then it moves into a few additional steps, such as a public hearing, generating some feedback, and then they make a selection, and we move into negotiation and legal agreements. So both properties are moving along at a good speed. Then second, one of our goals for EDC was to partner with fellow commissions more and as much as possible. And I attended the Conservation Commission meeting this Monday to share an update on excess properties, because they're asking about the new policy, where the properties were. So I was able to do that and work with that team a little bit and give them an update as we want to continue working and pulling all of our commissions and efforts together as a town. So those are our two updates for today.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have to split. I'm going on a cruise tomorrow.
Oh,
Tough.
It is very hard, but I'm gonna have it out like flat on something, my grandkids. I'm late, but thank you guys. But, yeah, so,
Sunburn.
uh,
Don't eat too
I
much.
can.
All right, liaison reports?
Sure.
Sir?
You want to go first?
Sure,
or want me
you
to?
can go.
So we sent this document over. Sorry, it was a little late. It kind of summarized 2024. Similarly to previous years, we invested about $1.6 million into the local economy on rebates. The one that, is pretty much, similar in spending in 23 and 22, it's grown a little bit. One of the things that's significantly grown is the HES program, home energy audits, that type of thing. Since I've come on board at GU, I've really been focused on trying to promote that, because it is a free service to our customers, residents, trying to improve the energy efficiencies of their houses, whether they're duplexes or basically 1 and 2 family units types of things. So I've been working with the town, brought in the city to facilitate a project, or what we call Heat Smart, along with a not-for-profit PACE group. And we're facilitating an installation workshop on March 13th at the Municipal building at the Chambers. That is going to go over the insulation process. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach we took. Initially, we were over here at the library and we did everything about the audit. We brought in our audit group. We talked about benefits, how we cover costs, that type of thing. It's a no-cost scenario. This next workshop, again, it's March 13th, is all about insulation 101, trying to facilitate our customers knowing about the rebates that we have in place to help facilitate energy efficiencies. So that's kind of on my calendar for this month. Another big rebate that I came out with, and I'm hoping that you guys can tell people about the insulation workshop. But I also want to get the word out about a program I put together starting in January. It's called Solar Plus. And it's a solar program for all of GU territory, residential only, up to 12 kilowatt project sizes. So it's really just mostly houses in the area. We're facilitating $1,000 per kilowatt of generation, so up to $10,000. So I have not a budget, I have a lump sum of money from what we've done with CMAQ for peak shaving and energy efficiencies and saving energy where we can. We've been able to gather about $1.2 million available. I'm looking to use about $750,000 of that toward solar projects, residential houses in our territory. It's on our website. There's a lot there. If you know somebody that wants to go solar and they keep telling you GU is not interested, we are interested. So I'm trying to get the word out. So if you know anybody.
What's the down payment like for one of these solar things? In this,
Here's the problem. And I live in Waterford. I
So
went
you're
through that
for it.
process. Huh?
you're a foreigner.
I am, but the contractor's pricing is somewhat similar. I got 3 bids. One was, they were all about a 10 kilowatt type size. I got a price for $88,000. I got a price for $72,000, and I got a price for $23,000. So I can't give you an answer.
So I'm just wondering, how do you go about evangelizing such a?
The companies all have different programs.
Yeah.
They have, it's a lease. We basically don't pay
Right.
anything.
We don't allow PPAs in our territory, but they're gonna do leases, they're gonna do different things.
Yeah,
It really comes down to the contractor that comes in. I mean, I think, there's still contractors out there that's saying that we will not do solar in our territory. I closed 2 solar projects this week. So we
In the
are
city?
moving, sorry,
In the city or the town?
in the city. And then I'm also open in the Bosra territory, which is something else we own.
That's
So-
part of GU anyway.
Yeah, right. So I'm trying to facilitate that. I'm trying to get people, I already have 3 applications in. And it's a first come, first serve. So it's a scenario where when I run out of money, program closes. But I'm hoping to get 75 houses or 75 locations that are going to put this in place. There are some limitations as far as size go, that type of thing, and timing. I mean, if you're in the queue and it takes you 6 years to build this thing, you're not going to be in the queue much longer than 6 months type of thing. So the process is getting your interconnection, getting that passed. Once your interconnection, we're saying your interconnection works for getting into our system, then the rebate kind of folds in and then you have your spot. So those are the main things that I'm working on. Let me think. It's pretty much all, I guess, that's new with me. So, so I'd like to get the word out.
Thank you. And I believe you were working with Lauren on some materials. Do you have any additional ones that you'd like us to share, just related to this new effort?
It's mostly on the website. I
Okay.
could definitely send some stuff over. I think I have something on the March kind of little flyer that I can send for the March 13th
Cool.
installation 101. I'll send that over and
Great.
kind of get the word out.
Perfect. We'd love to help with that. Thank you.
Thanks. Sir?
Okay, well, on the second and third page, there's a couple of feel-good stories, which I'll let you read yourself. But on the first page, I wanted to give you an update. I think I told you maybe a year ago or so, last summer, I don't know when it was, but about the OLDCC grant that Southeast Connecticut Council of Governments got for us. So that's been moving along. We've actually made we've all made a ton of progress on that. The electric and water projects are complete. The design, it's a design project. It's not actually doing the work yet, but we have the designs 100% done for those two projects. They're both about $5 million project, which is actually less than I thought it was going to be. To replace water main under all of Military Highway, I thought would be from our base all the way down to the sail down there is I thought it would be more than that with the way things are these days. But so that's exciting. And we're working on the gas line loop and the work up in Trident Park to try and get rid of that big old ugly water tower too. That's still ongoing. Those two projects are not done yet, but they're happening. But so we've looked at the two plans that we have, the ones for and by the way, Groton Utility has been great, absolutely great with these because they've been very involved with both of these. We've been having meetings every month and it's a ton of work on everybody's behalf. So we've decided from the basis standpoint, and we talked about it at GUs and they think it makes sense too, for us to go for a DSIP grant, which is a Defense Community Infrastructure Program grant, which is also an OLDCC project or program to pay for that water main. We're going to apply. It's a very, very competitive grant. There's usually 100 applications and they usually approve about 10, but we've never gotten one yet. And they did pay for the engineering work. So I think we got a leg up. So we'll see. So we're going to go for that. And hopefully if that happens, we'll be able to get that water main done and it won't cost the town anything. And that's something that GU is going to have to do eventually anyway, because it's shot. It's too small. It's only 8-inch main. And now they typically want 12-inch, which can flow like 4 times more water. Plus this one's half clogged. You see the little picture, that's not actually that pipe, but that's what's in there. Over years, the growth start going in there and deposits and things, and it's not able to flow what it needs to flow anymore. So it needs to get replaced. And I'm actually waiting for some data from GU. I'm sure that thing's broke a few times because this is so old and so fragile at this point. So like I said, it's going to have to be replaced. If we get the grant to do it, that'll be great for the ratepayers. That doesn't only feed sub-base. It feeds that whole. Obviously, it feeds Military Highway, but it helps feed that whole northern end of town. So it'd be great for us to get that done.
Are you guys applying or is Jimmy?
CCOG's going to apply. The COG has to apply.
So not GU.
GU could apply, the town could apply, but the COG's done so many of these that it's just easier because they just know
You got the ground right.
yeah, and they know the process. They've done.
GU doesn't have.
Yeah, they're not geared up for it. The COG's written literally 6 or 7 of these, or have gotten 6 or 7 grants from this group, so they know the whole process. So the biggest part of that grant really is the letter from our captain explaining why it's needed. So I'm working on that now. That's one of the most important things. We're working on that.
Should people be worried about George or OLDCC?
Who knows? Don't know what's going to happen on that front moving forward. But hopefully they should come out with the announcement. Usually it's in like May or June, and then we have to apply shortly thereafter. So we'll see what happens. With the big tabletop exercise coming up too in May, which is kind of exciting. We're going to have GU involved and Eversource and the towns, the state Office of Emergency Management. We're going to have a big tabletop exercise. We have a consultant that was hired. It's going to look at some kind of a disaster that's going to take out some utilities. And we have to find a way to deal with that. And I have a funny feeling it's going to be several utilities.
I hope it's Eversource, but yeah, go ahead.
That would be gas, yeah. If it's water, it's all their fault or get,
Yeah.
or electric. But no, it should be, a nice, a good event. For that, so. That's what I have, unless anybody has any questions or.
Thank you.
All right, any other business? All right, motion to adjourn, second. There we are.
9 minutes early.
Yeah, I don't think, right, we don't need to technically vote. Once it's motioned and seconded.
A done deal.